On a September evening in 2023, in the cluttered apartment 912A in Minot, North Dakota, Ina Thea Kanoyer, 47, stood before police officers with a glint in her eyes. She spoke of her and her fiancé, Stephen Edward Riley Jr., 51, and their plans, paying off debts, traveling, and starting a new life. The reason? Steve was set to receive a $30 million inheritance from a distant uncle in Ireland, which, according to Ina, had grown to $37 million through investments. Ina's voice brimmed with pride, as if she had already grasped the millionaire dream. Ina was immersed in a delusion of wealth, a psychological state fueled by a life of poverty and mounting debts. She and Steve lived in squalor, their apartment filled with trash and their finances depleted. Her blind faith in the inheritance, despite signs of a scam, such as invalid emails and an absent lawyer, revealed a state of self-delusion. According to criminal psychologist Joni E. Johnston, greed can blind individuals to reason, especially when they are desperate to escape hardship. Ina may have exhibited traits of narcissistic personality disorder with a need for validation through the impending wealth. Ina's boastful behavior with the police signaled a lack of emotional restraint. She revealed sensitive details about the inheritance without considering the consequences, as if to affirm her self-worth. According to the Minot Daily News, she frequently spoke of paying off debts and living luxuriously, indicating an obsession with her future image. This behavior aligns with manipulative tendencies, where Ina sought to shape how others perceived her. Ina's primary motivation was financial greed, amplified by the prospect of escaping poverty. She believed the inheritance would transform her life, but this belief rested on a fraudulent email. The fear of losing the money, especially upon hearing that Steve planned to leave her, began to sow the seeds of her criminal act. Sources indicate Ina believed she was entitled to the money as a common-law wife, though North Dakota does not recognize such status. This misconception was a critical factor driving her. On the morning of September 3, 2023, Steve worked in the garage, tinkering with his old truck. Ina prepared a glass of sweet tea, his favorite. But this time, she laced it with ethylene glycol, a component of antifreeze, carefully storing the poison in a Coors Light bottle to conceal its distinctive green hue. As Steve drank, Ina went about her daily tasks, betraying no hint of suspicion. Later that day, they went to Minot Airport with two friends, Billy and Wes, to meet the lawyer for the inheritance. Steve began to feel unwell, vomiting and staggering as if drunk. Ina insisted he was merely suffering from heat stroke and refused to take him to a doctor, claiming she would care for him at home. Ina's decision to poison Steve marked a shift from dreaming to ruthless action. Sources confirm she knew Steve intended to share the money with his 5 children and leave her after receiving the inheritance. The fear of abandonment and losing the money triggered a narcissistic injury, casting Steve as a threat. Choosing antifreeze, a sweet, easily concealed poison, demonstrated cold calculation and a lack of empathy, hallmarks of antisocial personality disorder, ASPD. Ina likely justified her act as necessary to secure her future, a common psychological mechanism among financial criminals. Ina's actions in this phase combined meticulous preparation with concealment. She selected antifreeze for its sweet taste and slow-acting effects, delaying detection. Staying at the airport after Steve fell ill was an attempt to establish an alibi, though it also reflected her persistent belief in the inheritance. When Steve's friends suggested taking him to a doctor, she adamantly refused, an action indicating her intent to let him die, without intervention. Ina's motive was to secure control over the inheritance, which she believed she deserved as a common-law wife. Sources confirm her anger upon learning North Dakota did not recognize this status, solidifying her resolve to eliminate Steve. Beyond greed, a motive of revenge was evident. She sought to punish Steve for his intent to leave her. Friends reported that Ina threw Steve's belongings into the yard on September 3rd, a sign of her anger and intent to sever ties after achieving her financial goal. By September 4th, 2023, Steve was unresponsive at home. Ina called 911, her voice trembling.
911,
What?
severe emergency.
My husband's really sick. He got heat stroke yesterday, and now he's not waking up.
He had heat stroke yesterday and now he's not waking up. She told paramedics Steve had been drinking heavily, but subsequent blood tests found no alcohol in his system. Steve was rushed to Trinity Hospital in Minot, then transferred to CHI Alexius Hospital in Bismarck, where he died on September 5, 2023. An autopsy confirmed the cause of death as ethylene glycol poisoning. Meanwhile, Ina faced growing suspicion.
We think she poisoned him. Oh, I'm almost sure she poisoned him.
Steve's friends and family, including Billy Burkhead and his son Ryan, told police that Ina had previously spoken of using antifreeze to poison someone. She retorted, calling them nasty people and offering implausible theories. Steve might have smoked a cigarette contaminated with antifreeze in the garage, or his heat stroke symptoms mimicked poisoning. During police questioning, she constantly changed her story.
Because he was drinking beer all day, he was working in the garage, he was spray painting his truck, with the doors and the windows closed, barely drinking any water.
So he consumed almost a case of beer and...
Oh, he can drink more than that.
Post-crime, Ina entered a state of controlled panic. The pressure from witnesses and evidence eroded her ability to maintain a consistent narrative. Her reaction to Steve's death, sobbing then quickly reverting to normalcy, was a sign of crocodile tears, a manipulative emotional tactic.
I thought everybody knew. I'm sorry.
Don't tell me anything.
Ina's behavior grew chaotic, marked by contradictory statements and blame shifting. According to KX News, she admitted to making the sweet tea, but denied intent to kill, even suggesting Steve accidentally poisoned himself. Her demand to see the police body cam footage showed an attempt to gauge how much was known. Throwing Steve's belongings and arguing with neighbors were displays of anger and defensiveness, aimed at undermining witnesses. Requesting a lawyer marked a shift to silence, a final effort to avoid self-incrimination.
I want a lawyer.
Ina's motive in this phase was self-preservation. She sought to avoid conviction by sowing doubt, blaming others, and minimizing her role. Her lingering belief in the inheritance persisted, as seen when she mentioned contacting the lawyer in London. Her anger upon learning she had no legal claim to the inheritance underscored that financial motives remained central, even as she faced the reality that the money didn't exist. On October 30th, 2023, police executed a search warrant on Ina and Steve's apartment, finding a capless Windex bottle containing a green liquid suspected to be antifreeze, along with a Coors Light bottle and a plastic cup in the garage, both bearing traces of antifreeze. This evidence, combined with witness statements and autopsy results, led to Ina's arrest on charges of Class AA felony murder, the most serious crime in North Dakota. On May 29, 2024, Ina pleaded guilty to intentional murder at the North Central District Court in Minot. On October 16, 2024, she appeared before Judge Richard Hagar, offering no statement when prompted. She accepted a plea deal for a 50-year sentence, serving 25 years with 25 years suspended, plus 10 years of supervised probation and $3,455 in restitution to Steve's family. At the hearing, Steve's sister, Stephanie Gonzalez, said, "You took a son, a father, a brother. You're lucky the prison doesn't put antifreeze in your tea." Steve's son, Ryan, expressed his grief. "I never thought I'd lose my dad to such a selfish act." Ina remained silent, her eyes vacant, as she was led away. Ina's guilty plea marked the collapse of her psychological defenses. Faced with irrefutable evidence, she had no choice but to admit her guilt. Her silence in court suggested emotional paralysis, possibly from exhaustion after months of resistance. Ina's behavior in this phase was passive, a stark contrast to her earlier aggression. Accepting the plea deal was a pragmatic decision to avoid a life sentence without parole. Her silence in court, per the Minot Daily News, signaled surrender, as all manipulative efforts had failed. Ina Thea Kenoyer's story is a tragedy woven from greed, deception, and a hollow dream. She killed Stephen Riley Jr., her partner of 10 years, for a $30 million inheritance that never existed, deceived by a fake email from a lawyer. The cruelest irony is that both Ina and Steve were victims of a sophisticated online scam. According to Minot police, there was no evidence the inheritance was real. Ina killed for an illusion, and now she pays with 25 years behind bars. As she was led away, perhaps she still thought of castles in Ireland, but they are only the prison walls that will hold her forever.